Hello and welcome to another episode of the Asian Seller Podcast. I'm your host, Meghla Bhardwaj, and today we're talking about your ideal FBA team structure, your FBA dream team. And to talk about that, I have with me Nate Ginsberg. Hi, Nate. How's it going?
Hi, Meghla. Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot for joining me today over here, Nate. So, yeah, really interesting topic. I mean, we've been talking a little bit about this before we pressed record. And, you mentioned that there are different functions of a dream team, of an FBA dream team. And you've been working on this a lot, and you've got a course coming up on this as well. So, pretty excited to understand all of this. And it's also, I think, very interesting for people who want to maybe sell their businesses in the future, right? Because you really want to have some sort of a structured team and a very efficient team if you want to sell your business. So before we get into that, Nate, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what have you been doing and how are you involved in the whole Amazon FBA space?
Yeah, sure. So let's see. The short story, got into selling on Amazon in early 2015, and was really focused on that for a few years, and then exited and sold my business in 2017. And one of the things that I guess learned, or really like the skills that I really honed with my FBA business was hiring, and that was something that I mean, it's a combination of a lot of experiences of my life, but like came to understand the role that me as the business owner, as the CEO, should be playing, and as I lead my team and my business, and and in understanding the role that I should be playing, also the roles that I shouldn't be playing as the CEO, as the visionary, as the business owner. And so part of my journey that ended up with the successful exit of my FBA business was building my team, and one at a time, filling the different roles. And we can talk about specifically what those are. But until I really had, I mean, I still have an amazing team, but different than the one that when I sold that business. But when I really built, my dream team, had amazing people handling all the stuff that, is probably not my personal highest and best use. And so after, so this was kind of the start of this journey for me, and that experience with that, and hiring, delegating, me playing the visionary, the business owner role, as opposed to working in the business. And then fast forward, I had this exit, and then that gave me more cash, more money, and and then the fast forward the last few years, now that experience has only really cemented my my understanding and my commitment to the roles that I should be playing and shouldn't. Because before, I was bootstrapping, building my business, and still was very intentional about building my team and building my role within my team. And then, I sold the business, got a bunch more money. And then it made it even, with that experience before of just playing my ideal role, then plus, more, funding and finances, then it's made me even more committed to just in whatever I'm doing now, playing the ideal role that I should be doing, the activities as, the visionary, the CEO, the business owner, as well as, things that fall into my own unique abilities, superpowers, zone of genius, of, the things that I enjoy, I'm great at, give me energy, which includes doing things like this. Podcast connecting is stuff that I love. And now with, the different things I'm involved with, that's, the primarily, or one of my primary roles is this: podcasting, connecting, content sharing. Anyway, so
Right.
being on this journey myself, it's, I know, personally, I know how impactful and how important this has become for me. And I see so many other entrepreneurs, other sellers, honestly, with far bigger and more, successful businesses than I've ever been a part of, that are just stuck doing all kinds of donkey work is the I think the appropriate word. That's in my mentioned the course coming up, and I've been talking about this more, but yeah, donkey work. It's just like, the boring, laborious, repetitive work that the business owner, CEO, has no business doing.
So Nate, as entrepreneurs, we start this business on our own. We're mostly, just a single person team, and we tend to do everything related to an Amazon business. Their sourcing, PPC, listing optimization, everything. So why do you think it's important for entrepreneurs to not do everything themselves?
Yeah. So, a lot of things, and this is something that I feel, quite strongly about. And so I know that we are here to both have an impact, and the way that we receive value is by creating the most value, creating the most output for our businesses, for the world. And the way that we're able to do that is not by doing donkey work, is not by doing listing admin, customer service. That is not your, anyone's highest and best use. That is not their opportunity to create the most value for their business, for their customers, for the world. And when we are stuck doing this donkey work, it's limiting us, it's limiting our potential. And we're here. I believe, and for me, it's so important to realize my potential. And I think for everyone, we should all, strive to be the best that we can, create the most amazing businesses, have the biggest impact, receive the biggest impact. And if we're stuck doing all this donkey work, that's impossible. And so that's why it's so important to get this donkey work off your plate, which allows you to elevate. And in doing less, it actually allows you to have more output, have more impact, to do more, because you're doing the high leverage, important things, as opposed to the low leverage, busy, donkey work, not important things.
Right. So is it important to, at least when you're starting out, to do all of this work yourself once, or to figure it out for yourself before you start delegating or creating a team? Or does it make sense to maybe just hire someone right off the bat, maybe somebody who's better than you in certain aspects? Like, how do you go about doing that?
It really it depends on the person and their situation. And so a general kind of rule of thumb is, if you have more time than money, it's, good to start doing it yourself. And, that's kind of being more scrappy, doing more yourself. If you have more money than time, then, hire away.
Right. That totally makes sense. Okay. So let's talk about the FBA team structure, or should we say our FBA dream team? What does the dream team look like?
Yeah. So, okay. When we're thinking of organizational structure, an important thing to understand first is the why. So, why have an org structure? What's the point? And the reason is because you want to think of your business as a machine, and a machine that has these different inputs, these different functions that all work together to create an output. And that's, whether it's an FBA business, whether it's this business or that business, like, the machines can have different designs and, how they're structured, but the all businesses, they take inputs, they take pieces that combine together to create different outputs. And so keeping that 10,000 foot view with an FBA business, and then the goal is to create this machine with, get the right pieces in place to create this machine. And that's what the org chart is. It's like, that is the blueprint. Those are the pieces of this machine, your FBA business machine. And so with the org chart, we'll start at the top. And so the top of the org chart is you, the CEO, the visionary, the leader. That's a role that you arguably always will be playing with your business. And that's a role you should be playing. The CEO is responsible for the vision, developing the culture, the vision, the direction of the business, how to allocate capital, meaning what areas to invest and grow. And like, that's kind of the core definition of the CEO or visionary role. And so that's you at the top. And then with, getting more to the boots on the ground functions for an FBA business, there are 4 core buckets. And this is the way that I organize my business. And, for any of the listeners, you can take this, structure and run with it, make it your own. That's fine. They're also like, when it comes to org structure, it's not like it has to be this or that way. People can, the roles that need to be fulfilled are the same, but who reports to who, and it can kind of, it can be a little bit dynamic. But the way that I structure my business is 4 core buckets. You have the Amazon bucket, which we'll come back to because that has a few different functions and pieces. You have supply chain and operations. You have new product development, and you have finance. And so those 4 buckets, which are quite separate in terms of their role and function, to make up this FBA machine. And yeah, so we got the Amazon bucket, we got supply chain bucket, we've got finance bucket, and we have new product development. And yeah, I mean, can go into more detail on.
Yeah, so let's look at each of these individually. So let's talk about the most important one. Do you think the Amazon bucket is the most important one, or actually all of them are equally important, right?
I mean, they all are necessary. And I mean, we can talk about hierarchy of importance. The Amazon one obviously is an important bucket. And so, yeah, we can start there. So the Amazon bucket has 2 different functions. And so there's the Amazon admin, which is going to include customer service, dealing with listing issues, responding to reviews, the admin side of managing an Amazon account. Then you have Amazon marketing, which is going to be launches, growth, PPC, the activities that are really about, growing the business. And in general, as kind of a rule of thumb for the business owner, for the CEO, for the visionary, you want to be spending as much of your time or your only time in activities that are actually contributing to the growth of the business. Mm-hmm. And so, so getting removed first and as quickly as you can from any of the areas that are not growing the business. So with the Amazon bucket, the Amazon admin is oftentimes an easy first thing to hire and unplug from. It's, you can get someone for relatively inexpensively. It's just, I mean, it's some of the worst, tactical kind of things. I mean, personally, that, I don't know many sellers that love, dealing with FBA seller support because some listing got flagged for, some unknown reason. And anyway, I mean, and not to downplay its importance, obviously this, you need this in order to keep your business functioning, but none of that is going to grow the business. The Amazon marketing side, that is a much bigger contributor to the business growth. And so, the founders holding on to the growth roles longer, it makes sense. So we got the Amazon bucket, admin, as well as marketing. And then we've got supply chain operations, which is, again, I mean, it's very important. It's necessary to, keep the business running, but also not going to grow the business. And so the way that I think of supply chain, the primary functions are supplier relationship management. So, communicating with, dealing with suppliers, freight management. So getting the goods from, point A to point B, and inventory management. So making sure the reorder trackers are in place, that when to order, when to place reorders, not go out of stock. And yeah, I mean, obviously a very important function, but again, supply chain is not going to grow the business. It's just, if you mess it up, it's really going to mess up your business. And so again, I mean, all the roles are important. All the pieces of the machine need to function together. Otherwise, if one thing isn't there, the whole thing is going to, implode. But again, not growing the business, and therefore I think the founder, the owner has, if they spend their time on the growth areas, that's going to grow the business more. So that's supply chain. Then you got finance, another, crucial role, specifically around bookkeeping, calculating cost of goods, keeping up with your bookkeeping. And this is, I mean, for me personally, this is like the epitome of donkey work. I mean, I don't have an account, like I'm not an accountant. I don't want to be an accountant, but I know how important this is. And, you talked about, or, mentioned as well, if you ever want to sell your business, like you need to have clean and complete financials if you ever want to have an exit. It's not a nice to have, it's a need to have. And I mean, plus, if you want to be tax compliant, also necessary to have your numbers, done completely and correctly. And so it's important, but yeah, like having correct numbers isn't going to double your business next year. I mean, another discussion maybe for another time. There's a lot of really great insight that you can and should have, from the numbers, but as the business owner, your responsibility or your role there is to make sure the numbers are done, completely and correctly. And then one of your functions is reviewing them. So as the business owner, you should just, have the P&L, have your finances, and, be able to review that to then make, actionable decisions on the future growth of the business. But the bookkeeping and finance itself, not what the owner should be doing. And also within that could be accounts payable. So this was a big one. I mean, for a lot of e-commerce FBA sellers, I mean, sending payments can get to be tedious. I mean, it's tedious. It can be quite time consuming. If you're sending a lot of payments, like that gets to be a lot of donkey work. And so having someone as well in the finance role that's able to, get that off your plate for you, again, frees up your time to focus on the higher level things. And so then finally moving on to the last bucket, new product development, I mean, is kind of what it sounds like, finding the new product opportunities and moving them forward. So that kind of gets also into, brand strategy, product strategy, as well as the, tactical of like, moving that forward, getting samples, placing, working with the vendors to make sure you have the right product and, or the product is how you want it to be. And, of all of those functions, that one, maybe more than any others, is, has a bigger impact on business growth. And so, I mean, it ties in a lot with the Amazon marketing. You can't have one without the other, but FBA businesses generally grow by launching more products. And so, you could make the case that the founder, the owner, their highest and best use, the biggest impact that they can have is by, churning out this amazing new product development, bucket, section, machine. And if that's where their focus goes on, finding the next right, best product opportunities, moving them forward, bringing them to market, that arguably more than any other role is going to have the biggest impact on the growth of the business. And there's also not to say that you can't also get, very capable, talented people to handle the new product development, as well as any of these roles. I mean, anything's possible. There's amazing people that you can find to do anything for you. But, when you're thinking of unplugging, I think a good, a good order or cadence is unplugging from the lowest growth value, highest donkey work, tedious, meter, and, working your way, one by one, unplugging from the lower level tasks. And then, then it's kind of up to you, actually. I mean, as the founder and owner, of what buckets you still hold on to, as long as they are, is two things. growing the business as well as in your zone of genius superpower, just something you enjoy. And so if as the founder, the owner, maybe you love new product development, finding new opportunities, making changes to them. If you really enjoy that, awesome. Keep doing that. No need to find someone else to do that. If you like it, it's growing the business. Great. And, same on some of the Amazon marketing side. So, let's say if you love doing PPC, great, keep doing it. That's fine. Like if you enjoy it, it adds value. Don't remove yourself from activities that you're enjoying doing. I mean, because I think we should enjoy our businesses. And anyway, but also with any of these, you still can find people to do them for you. And so even if they are like growth levers, but you don't enjoy it, then yeah, like someone else does. So better to get better to get them in that role. So those are the main buckets. And then again, at the top, you have you as the visionary, the owner. A few other pieces is, so in between you as the CEO and, these different core buckets, you can have something in between, which is going to be your general manager, your COO, your integrator. And depending on the size of your organization, that main role is to act as a bridge between you as the CEO and these different units. And so, I mean, if it's a large enough business and large enough team, then having like a buffer between you as the CEO and these different functions. I mean, each of these teams, depending on the size of the business, can grow. I mean, maybe you're launching, 10 products a month or a product every day. Then maybe your new product development team is, a dozen people or more, and then maybe your Amazon admin team is 3 people or 4 people. And you have, each of these core buckets can have, grow in more than one people. And as that grows, wanting to keep yourself, the CEO, the visionary, insulated, where you're not dealing with problems. You're not, you're focused on the vision, the direction, growing the business. And that GM COO role is to act like as a bridge in between making sure all the pieces of the machine continue to run properly and being that filter between you and, the different parts of the business.
This is, of course, a structure for a pretty large business, right? I mean, if you probably have to do like 6-7 figures in revenue, maybe even more, to have that sort of a structure, right? So
so something with this, and one thing that some people, I guess, like misunderstand is that these don't need to be full-time roles. Like a bookkeeper, for example, most businesses, bookkeeping, it's like, a couple $100s a month. You don't need like a dedicated finance person to handle that for you. And so a lot of these roles as well, like they don't have to be full-time, full salary people, they could be hourly. So maybe you have, a bookkeeper that's a couple $100 a month, and you have Amazon admin that's a couple $100 a month, and you have a supply chain, and, they're not full-time. That's a little more expensive, but, they're 10 hours a week, and, and you play the new product development role. And so yeah, like there's, I'm of the opinion, I think that it's better to I'd rather like get the right people in place earlier than when it's too late. And, you can do so in a way that's not like, people hear this and it sounds like your initial reaction is like, oh, like this is going to be so expensive. And it's not. I mean, again, getting people, they can start hourly, and getting some, fractional people that are responsible for these different things. Yeah, it can allow you to unplug faster. And again, there's a bunch of reasons, again, why, some of what you talked about, but when you're able to unplug from, the donkey work of these other areas, it frees up your time and energy and mental space to, think about the bigger picture and growing the business faster. And so when you're able to unplug more, it frees you up for the business to grow faster. And when you have the people in place, it's going to be more scalable. So even when they're starting off as, hourly, it's something that you've already removed yourself as the bottleneck. And so as things grow, as things, ramp up, you can keep growing and keep ramping up because you have the right pieces in place that allow the business to scale, as well as, have the structure and you're on top of things. So you're prepared as well for an eventual exit.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes total sense. So when you're starting out, you can probably hire VAs or, maybe temp staff or agencies even, right? I mean, you could have maybe a PPC agency who's managing your PPC and just outsource the entire function. That's an option as well.
Totally. I mean, and also, so what's important, an important distinction here, and I'm glad that you brought this up, is with these different functions, what matters is that there's a clear responsible party. Like that's the most important thing, is that there is an individual person who is responsible. And so a quick thing on that. So with these different areas, again, you need to have, it's one person needs to be responsible. So one person can be responsible for more than one thing, but you can't have two people responsible for the same thing. Otherwise, it's just like a mess. And so again, the goal is just responsible party for each of these functions. And then, like whether that's in-house, whether that's an agency, whether that's full-time, whether that's part-time, less important. It's really like, I mean, we can talk about, advantages, disadvantages, roles to do in-house, roles to outsource, agency. It's, generally it's less important, like how the role is filled, and more than just that it's someone is responsible filling that role.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think as entrepreneurs, sometimes it's a bit difficult to let go of everything as well, because, you feel that, oh, I'm not profitable yet, especially when people are starting out and they have maybe, just a couple of products, and they're not too profitable. It just feels like they are, there's cash flow issues, and it just feels like they're not able to invest, the money back. So, I think that's another issue. Like, what if people are just starting out with, a lot of people just have very less investment, maybe, $5,000-$10,000 investment, and they're mostly putting it into inventory. So what if they're short on capital and they just don't have, the capital to outsource any of these functions or hire people?
Yeah. So, when people are starting out, again, you have more, if you have more time than money, then you're going to be doing most of these roles, or starting doing most of these roles. And that's okay. That's, what we do when we're starting out.
Right.
But a couple of things to keep in mind though, is that, again, one person can fill more than one role. And so when you're starting out, you're that one person, you're filling all these roles. But the important thing to understand is to have this blueprint that, and so even when it's just you are fulfilling very specifically all these roles. You are fulfilling the, Amazon admin, Amazon marketing, supply chain. I mean, I don't know. I mean, should be doing something for finance, new product development, and the vision. And like, yeah, when you have more time than money, that's how you start. But keeping in mind the big vision, and if you want to build a long-term scalable organization that you can have an exit from, then you're not going to play all of these roles. And
right.
And also, and so just being aware of that and knowing what roles you're responsible for, so that you can also be intentional of removing yourself, one by one from the ones that, aren't your highest and best work and aren't, driving the most value. And something also to, on the finance stuff is, that's a whole other topic around, cash flow and cash flow management. And yeah, with FBA businesses, obviously inventory is, probably the biggest item on your balance sheet and on your P&L. And I get it. It's hard. I was there when my business, maxing out my credit cards, like, the business is growing, but my bank account isn't. And, and now there are a lot more options than there were before in terms of, lending, whether it's Amazon loans, or there's, tons of these new lenders that are popping up that are trying to, serve, FBA sellers, e-commerce sellers. to solve some of their, cash flow challenges. And so there are now, if your business is growing and going in a positive direction, there are, different financing options that can allow you to do that and still build your team while still, having access to the capital that you need. And another thing is, and this is stuff that also part of it is having the right mindset, and the mindset when it comes to your finances of knowing that one, there are options, and these things there's not a set rule. There's not, there can be challenges and things to overcome, but when it comes to the finances, there's actually a lot of different levers that you can pull to find more money in the business, whether it's, taking out some loans or getting some lending from some of these different things that we've been talking about. There's different credit cards that'll, give you cash advance, or you don't need to pay your balance for 30 or, 50 days. And then also a huge one is, terms with your suppliers. And so instead of, for people that I can't afford hiring a team, if you kind of flip that and think okay, well, the reality is for I don't know. I mean, on the low end, a couple $100 a month to, 1,500, 2,000, I don't know, to low thousands a month is kind of the budget that you would need to get good people responsible for all of these things. Mm-hmm. And, when you're doing POs, the relative amount of money that you're going to spend on your team versus inventory is, quite a bit smaller. And so when that there are options and, there's other levers to pull to free up cash, whether it's supplier terms or some of these different financing options, it's, you can figure these things out if you, one, the mindset, you need to know that you can, and then two, explore the different options. There are options.
Things that makes sense, because otherwise you'll never be able to scale, right? You'll just be stuck there. That makes sense. Okay, let's also talk about this whole hiring funnel that you've mentioned to me previously. So what exactly is a hiring funnel?
Yeah, so how it started is, I think like many other, entrepreneurs, sellers, hiring was a pain. It took all this time. I couldn't get good people. It was literally a time, energy suck. It was donkey work for me. I remember, the worst for me personally, and this was kind of one of my breaking points, was just having, 30-minute or hour-long, call interviews with multiple candidates that I never ended up hiring. And at a certain point, I'm on these calls and I'm talking to this person and they're not the right fit. And I'm just realizing I just wasted the last 30 minutes, 40 minutes, hour, talking to this person that's not a part of the long-term, vision and future of the business. And so I was inspired to, create a better way. I knew there had to be a better way, and was inspired by some friends. This was years ago, friends telling me about, marketing funnels, where, marketing funnels, you have at the top, you put in leads, traffic, whatever, and you have different qualification steps where out the bottom come out, qualified leads, sales. And, I was thinking, oh, well, they build a funnel for marketing, why not build a funnel for hiring? And, so that was kind of the aha moment of oh, wow, just build a better funnel. And so yeah, that's kind of where the idea came from. And, fast forward, 5 years, I've hired, hundreds of people all over the world. And yeah, I can say it's a much better system. And so, at the high level, some of the key components and kind of the high level overview is you have, it starts with the job post and then initial set of questions. And so you have initial set of questions, and the objective at first is to you want to lead them through the process. What you want to avoid, which too many people do, is they'll write a job description and and then they post it and that's it. And then, they get a bunch of resumes or some people respond to this or that, but it's like, there's no process there. There's no system. And I mean, resumes, I never look at resumes actually, or I'll only look at them like after I've already decided to hire them, because like, I know what information I need to know for the role. And so I'll just ask them what I need. Like, I don't care what their resume says. If they, if you set up the hiring funnel correctly, then you'll get all the information that you need. And, the resume, this, that, whatever. I mean, you can look at it if you want, but the point of the hiring funnel is to lead them through this process to get, filter out the wrong candidates, attract the right ones. And anyway, so it starts, you have the job post, initial interview questions is the first step. Second step is follow-up questions. And that's important to, get some more information, as well as to, you're also like testing for communication, responsiveness. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have like first round applicants that look so great and then send the follow-up questions and they disappear. Mm-hmm. And then, on one hand, it's frustrating, but it would be more frustrating if I hired that person, and, we're committed and then they disappear a week later. And so, the point of the funnel, you want to make them jump through hoops. It is hard. And again, because you want to get rid of the wrong candidates so that you're left with the right candidates. So initial job post, initial questions, follow-up questions. The next step is a test project. And so a test project is a good opportunity to kind of try before you buy. And yeah, normally the test projects that I give will be, they'll be paid. And like, a couple of hours of work. And I try to make the test project as closely related to what their actual job and responsibility will be. And so yeah, do a test project. And then only after they've gone through all of these different steps of the funnel, I've got all this information about them, they've already done some test work, then at that point, you're pretty able to make a decision. And so when it comes to the interview at the end of the process instead of at the beginning, it's the interview now is more about like, is it a culture fit? Like, oh, let's kind of see, get to know each other a little bit. Do we like each other? You maybe have some final questions or things to clarify or talk about. But by the time you get to the interview, you should have a pretty good idea that they're the right candidate because they've already went through this, somewhat extensive hiring process. And so, yeah, so that's, I mean, at a high level overview, that's what this funnel looks like.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And then you're saving so much time because you're not interviewing each and every person who's coming to you. But then do you send the first list of questions to everybody that applies, or do you have some sort of a filter at the first level?
Yeah, so a couple of things, because I mean, like you kind of commented or alluded at, like the goals are you want it to be fast, you want it to be efficient, you want it to be effective. And so to do that, one is you want to set up all these pieces of the hiring funnel first. Abraham Lincoln said, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend, for the first 5 hours sharpening my axe. So like, that's what we're doing when we set up the funnel first. And so yeah, you get the pieces in place first. And so that way, when people start coming through, it's so fast and easy to move them from the first stage to the second stage to the third, because you already have it. And so what I'll usually do, I mean, one of the main places that I hire is Upwork. Mm-hmm. There's a couple other platforms, but yeah, have and do hire a ton from Upwork. And what I'll do is, I set up the funnel first. And also to answer, I think your previous question, the first round of questions are attached to the job post. So it's the job post, with the job post about the role, blah, 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 blah. And then if you're interested in this position, please respond to the first set of questions. And so that's, both part of the first step. And so what I'll do, so the job post is out with the questions, post it on Upwork, invite some applicants. And then, I'll check back in a few hours and see, oh, okay, look, 5 people, 10 people, 15 people, have applied. And then it's like, just glance, did they answer the questions? If yes, great. Here's the second round of questions. Like it takes, 10 seconds per candidate. And I already have the questions. I just send it out. I don't even really look at their responses. It's just, did they answer the questions? If yes, sure. Have the second round of questions. It doesn't cost me anything. And so, yeah, by having it set up first and then also batching it. So then I'll do that. And so, okay, post a job, invite applicants, go do something else, come back a couple hours later, send the follow-up questions, leave again, come back a couple hours later. Oh, some more people filled it out. It's like when you have the pieces together, you're just copying and pasting to move it along. And so that's for the first round to the second round. And then before the test project, because that is paid. And so I don't want to just like give out a million test projects. So, I'll kind of glance. I mean, I'll pick, the top, 1, 2, 3, 4 or so that get the second round of questions. And, it's like, I'm not spending much time still. It's like, I'll glance at their responses like, oh yeah, I have a decent feeling about them. They seem interesting. Sure. Give them the test project. And so, I usually like to give out, 1 to 4 test projects is, I think a good range. And yeah, then it's not until, and again, this takes, it's very quick because I already have the test project. I look at their responses. I maybe spend, a minute or a couple of minutes. I'm like, oh, wow. Like, yeah, they look interesting. Sure. Here's a test project. And then it's not until I've gotten the responses back from the test project. And at this point, we've got a lot of information on them. I mean, the test project in itself, I think, is the single best and biggest indicator of their success. You need to structure the test project correctly, but that's fully within your control. And so the test project is really what gives you the best information about a candidate and like see how they perform. And so what I'll do then is I'll look at the test projects, I'll, review them, and then the ones that look, the best that I'm most interested in moving forward with, now I can go back and I have all this additional information on them. I have first round questions. I have second round questions. Now I can look at if they have a resume. Like then I'll actually spend time really reviewing the candidate once they've completed the funnel and I have the test project. Then that's when, you put the time in to actually review. And so it's not before. And so that way you're really only putting time into, a few candidates and usually it's still not like, most often for me, there's, a clear 1 or 2 that do, people drop off along the way and this and that, it's supposed to filter people out and it does. And so, by the end of it, you're looking at 1, maybe 2, maybe a few, good test projects. And, from that, usually I'll just select 1 or 2 to like have a call with, but the call is almost not even, it's a formality. Depending on the role, you don't even need to do the call, but if it's, depending on how important or close they're going to be working with you, but yeah, so that's the funnel. And again, the reasons, the goal, the whole point is it's fast, it's efficient, it's effective, and yeah, saves your time and allows you to, fill those pieces of your FBA dream team so that you can focus on the higher level stuff.
Wow, that does make sense, definitely. So, yeah, very interesting. So, thanks a lot for sharing this, information about the funnel and also the team structure. So, do you also want to talk about your course? You mentioned your course is coming out in February, and do you want to tell people what the course is about and how they can benefit from it?
Yeah, sure. So, this has been a really fun chat. For me, and I hope for the listeners as well. And I hope that this has been valuable, and people kind of get at the high level, like what they need and how they fill what they need. And and the course goes into like all the detail, step by step. We've got. And so one thing, so mentioned with the relaunch of this course and, in this relaunch, it's like hyper specific and targeted for FBA sellers. So it'll have specifically, org chart for FBA. Break down, those roles that we talked about on the org chart. You'll have that, but just way more detail, job descriptions for each of those roles. And actually will include, or does include, the full hiring funnel. So, for each of the roles, job description, follow-up questions, test projects, tips and tricks of how to do the interview. And so it's going to give you like plug and play all the details, case studies, examples, for all of these things that we've been talking about, that again, specific for FBA, that sellers can then take, and that they have the blueprint, and they have the resources are right there to allow them to, tactically start executing on all these things. And then there's, a lot more as well. Every step of the process that we, mentioned and talked about here, the program goes into, step-by-step detail of like, oh, well, you set up the funnel, and then, where do you deploy the funnel? How are you actually, what does it look like? Filtering out applicants, what does the interview look like? You're inviting applicants on these platforms. Like, one thing that I've learned as I've thought a lot more about the success that I have with hiring myself, and talking to more and more people about hiring, and successes as well as challenges, and the success is really, it's made up of a lot of different little things. There's some big things, but it's not just like look, we talked about the funnel. Like it's not a secret, like here's the funnel, and look, if you want to take it, run with it, build your own, good. I sincerely hope that can be effective and useful. And yeah, for some people it is and can be, but also I've learned that it's, success, even when the steps, there's so many small things that lead to, big success. And so, little things that you add in the job post, specific questions that you ask in the first round, in the second round, and how the test project's structured, little tips and tricks about getting people to, start working at, agree to lower rates, and how you get them to, connect with you and your mission, and which gets them more invested in you and more willing to go through the funnel and also work for less money. And it's like, it's a lot. There's a lot of these, small details that, when you add it up, you get the outcomes and success that you're going for. And so, all this in the course, so that's what the course is. It's all that, plus more. I think that's, that's most of it. If anyone's, for anyone that's interested, can check it out, dreamteammachine.com. And that's, where the course is. And also if anyone is just interested and, has questions or wants to explore, reach out, ask me, at Nate Ginsburg on Instagram, Facebook. And I'm genuinely, like, my primary motivation is impact and help. And I really want to help people grow better businesses that are scalable, that they can unplug, they can have exits. And like the financial side of it is, there's a piece, like we all need to have, we all have an hourly rate, something else that the course talks about, and, understanding our hourly rate. And in order to serve the people that we want to serve, there needs to be the financial component, so that you are able to serve and create value for the ones that, you have the established, relationship with. And so, with that, my drive and my objective really is to help and to serve, and, able to, help the students the most, because, we're in this together, and anyway, but that being said, still can answer questions, comments, concerns, whatever. Just add me on social somewhere, or check out the page at dreamteammachine.com. And
yeah, that sounds great. I'll put the links and everything on the show notes page as well for everyone's reference. But yeah, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Nate, for your time and for sharing all of this information. And some of it has been pretty insightful for me as well, because I'm, a solo entrepreneur too, and I've been struggling with some of the issues too. I mean, not necessarily, for the FBA business, but for the other business that I'm doing. So yeah, this has been really
Yes.
good. And, maybe we should do a follow-up call and, maybe dig a little bit deeper into some of the specific aspects, once the
Yeah, I mean, happy to. And I mean, so this course that we're talking about, like I said, is very, the roles or the org chart is specific to FBA, but the core concepts apply to every business. And so whether it's a sourcing business, whether it's a products, services, info, in person, online, local, global, it's like the same core principles apply to every business. The training is, again, is like niched around, it adds the most value specifically around FBA, but the same core concepts apply to any business. So would encourage you or any other listeners that aren't in FBA to, same thing. It's like identify the org, what roles or buckets are you playing? Which ones are your highest value? Which ones are the lowest value? And start getting the lowest ones off your plate, and one at a time, you'll get momentum and, grow the business more and have more fun too.
Totally makes sense. Well, thank you so much, Nate, for your time, and I will see you around. Take care.
Thank you.